Hello crafty friends, this is Jen and thank you for joining me today. My video today is going to show how I created the December 2024 Designer Challenge card for Karen Burniston. For this card, our theme was New Year's or Happy New Year. And so I decided to create a scene where you're seeing fireworks over a boat. To start, I need to make the background for the inside of my card, and I wanted to make like a lake. So I used My Favorite Things Perfect Pool Water Stencil and Distress Ink in Salty Ocean, Chipped Sapphire, and Black Soot. Because it's kind of like a night scene, I made the water a little darker than I normally would. So I'm just using the stencil and I'm going in with the Salty Ocean and just giving that not a thick coat, but just a good coat of the ink. And then what I do is I turn the stencil kind of like a Concord 9th turnabout stamp. So I'm just going to turn it clockwise, put my magnets back on to hold it in place once I have it straight, and then go over it again with the ink. And I just keep doing this for all four sides until I get it really well coated. And you can kind of see where the lines that were covered up the first time I did it are now like a light blue, and then the other areas get darker and darker and darker. So when you're done, it kind of looks like movement on the lake or on water, which is a really neat effect. And then I realized I turned it the wrong way, so I'll flip it around and then make sure I put my magnets down. This little board that I got from Michael's from Ranger is so great. It comes with the 4 magnets, and you can get additional attachments like a ruler. I believe it came with a very thin ruler that you'll see later on in the video, but it also comes with a thick plastic magnetic ruler that can go onto this board as well. So we're just going to turn it one more time and then give it one more coat. And then I can go in and add color to anything that's still white and then darken the edges with the other 2 colors of ink I'm using. So you can see that there's still some areas that need to be filled in. So I'm just going to go in and fill those out. And then you can see it almost gives the illusion of like light on top of the water, like those little reflections. So I'm going in with the Chipped Sapphire, and before I do that, I'm going to add some tape along this edge. Now I'm going to go over that edge with some pattern paper, but I didn't want to get it too messy. So I'm just going along the top, the side, and the bottom edge, because the 2 pieces will meet in the middle of the inside of my card. So I didn't want it to be like 2 separate pieces. I wanted it to look kind of like all one, like it matched up, if that makes sense. And I apologize if it doesn't. Now I'm going in with the Black Soot and just darkening those edges up. So really what will end up happening is it will look bright all around the boat once we get my little pop-up boat in there. And then that's kind of reflective of, like, you know, the fireworks are going off and the light reflects on the water, so it's a little brighter around the boat. So that was kind of the idea behind this background. And then I'm just blending the colors together, going back in with the Chipped Sapphire and the Salty Ocean. And now I'm just going to set that aside to dry. And now I'll do the other half of the paper. And I've just sped this up because I'm just doing the exact same thing over again. Same stencil, same colors, same technique. I'm not sure if you can still get this stencil or not, but it was one of those ones that I snagged when it came in, and because I had seen it before, and if they still have it, I say get it. It's such a neat little technique to make, even if you're making like a pool or a pond or a lake. It's a really neat technique. And again, just blending those in, and you can see where, you know, the light and the darker color contrasts. And then just turning my stencil again. And then turning it for the last time. And then I'll go over any areas that are still showing white paper through once I'm done here. And then I'll go in with the chip sapphire again and the black soot to add some darker areas around. And then you'll see once we get the two papers into the card base that they match up pretty good. Now, I usually let these, I set these aside and I let them dry 24 hours. You could use a heat gun and set them quicker. But I had so many other things to work on with the little boat and the other pieces that I just worked for the afternoon and let those sit and dry, and then the next day put everything together. So this is the Karen Burniston's pop-up boat, and I also used the Sailboat add-on and the pirate ship add-on. So I've die cut the boat base from heavyweight smooth white cardstock, and I'm going to color these edges with a black pen. And that's just what I'm doing right here. And that's just a very thin tipped black pen. And now I'm going to fold on all of the fold lines. And I'm using my bone folder to make sure that I get a good crisp fold. So before I add some of the other pieces, I die cut the front bow from the pirate ship add-on, and I'm just going to add the black marks or the black lines to that and use the die like a stencil and just go in with my black pen. And then I'm going to add that to the front of my boat. And I could have done this with a Copic marker, but I just decided to use the very fine tip black pen. Now, when you're installing this onto the front of the boat and you want to put this, you'll see on the boat die cut that there's a thin piece down the center and a wider piece down the center of the left-hand part. The larger piece is the back of the boat and the smaller piece is the front of the boat. So I'm just adding this piece to the front of the boat. I don't glue the whole thing. I only glue the two sides and then add it on so that it has room to move when you push the boat, like put it into place. Now I'm going to put the railing onto the back. And you can see here what I mean by the back. It's a little wider. It's a wider space than the front of the boat. That's how you can differentiate between the two. And I'm just adding, this is all just black and white cardstock. I didn't want to make it too fancy because we're adding fireworks to this card. So I kept the boat kind of elegant colors, but black and white for the most part. So I'm just gluing the tab to make the boat one piece. And now we're going to start on the center of the boat. So this is the floor of the boat, and you'll see that there are 3 little notches in there. I did die cut the seat, but then I didn't end up using it. The seat's for more like the rowboat. And then I realized that I forgot to add the water. So I'm just going to add the waves that go along the base of the boat. And I'm sorry that it went off camera there a bit. And this was just die cut from some dark blue cardstock that I just had some scrap. And you just cut 4 pieces. It will overlap, it will go over the edges on the front and the back. And you can trim that if you don't like it. I just leave it. I think it looks pretty good. I realized I put this one on the wrong way. The flat end is supposed to go meet up with the other side. So I just pulled that off and then just moved it over where it's supposed to go. Okay, so we have our little waves attached to the boat. And there's 2 little legs that go into the center of the boat, and they attach to the boat pop-up piece. And then that way, that's what helps to lift the boat up when you open the card. And the 2 little black pieces I used are just to cover up the leg pieces that come up through the top. And you'll see here, I put one end in, I close up both edges so it makes the little tab smaller, and then I just push the tab through, and it just makes like little legs at the bottom of the boat base. And I put that through up, and now I have to put this one up through the center one, the same as so there's 2 in the middle and 1 on each end. And then those little black pieces cover up the 2 end pieces so that it just kind of looks like there's little spaces in the boat. I think there's a name for it, and I apologize, I can't remember what they're called now. For a more in-depth tutorial on how to put this boat pop-up together, Karen Burniston has a really great assembly video on her YouTube channel, so I highly recommend to check that out. Now, I've die cut 2 of the Sailboat posts. This comes with the Sailboat add-on. I've die cut these from heavyweight cardstock, and I'm putting 2 together. I find that this gives you more stability. And I'm just pushing that down, making sure I have a good press. And now what I do is I put this right down the center of the centerpiece. But first I'm going to put the boat floor into the boat. So I'm just making sure that that's centered. And I just glue that one small bottom tab. And I will glue the other side. So you're not gluing the whole floor tab, just that bottom piece. And then when you have that in place, then you can push that up and it will pop the boat floor up. So as I was saying, I push this right down to the center, and then I glue that in, making sure it's good and straight. And then I glue that into the 2 pieces in between, like sandwiches in between the 2. And then I'm just going to hold that to dry. And now you can see that holds that in place and pushes it up. Once you open the card, it will push that right up, no problem. So now we're going to do our sails. And for the sails, I decided instead of coloring them with Copic markers, I was going to use embossing powder. So I'm using my static powder first so that it doesn't get all over the areas that I want to stay white. And then I'm going to press Versamark ink into the stencil feature of these dies. And then for this first sail, I'm going to use gold embossing powder. Just giving that a good coat. And then I'm going to heat set that. And now that's all heat set, and I can set that aside, and you can see it's kind of shiny. I'm going to actually just pop that right into my Sailboat pop-up. And then you can see where the other side will, you just add it on to where those two tabs are. Just going to clean my dies first and get rid of the Versamark ink on my work table. And I apologize if I sound stuffed up. I think my son has given me his cold. So hopefully it goes by fast. Again, just pressing some Versamark ink into the stencil feature of the sails. And then for this sail, I decided to go with black embossing powder. I don't have a little fancy container for the black embossing powder. I just have this plate that sits out, and I have a little piece of paper that I use to put the powder on. And then I'm just going to heat set that. And now, in order to put these on the other sail, once I get this cleaned up, I turn my sail to the side, and then that kind of gives me an idea of how much space I'm going to need to make it so that the sail is wiggly enough that it will turn when you go to close the card. And I'm just giving myself a little bit of space. And you can see there, it doesn't do it now, but it will once it goes in the card. So the little boat's done for now. I'm just going to start on putting my card together. So I decided to make a side fold 5x7 card. I have one piece of black cardstock cut 5x7 and one cut 5x7.5. And I'm just folding along the 1/2 inch fold line there and using my bone folder to make a good crisp fold. I'm making sure that the two pieces are straight together, and then I'm gluing that tab onto the other piece of cardstock. And don't worry, that tab will be covered. So I'm going to add my lake base pieces in. And I'm just using a 1/4 inch double-sided adhesive. And I pull up the corner tabs so that you can still maneuver the card around so that you get good placement. And then once you have it placed where you'd like, just push down and then remove the backing off of the rest of the double-sided adhesive. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. Pulling up the tabs, placing the card in, making sure it's straight, pushing down, and then removing the backing off of the rest of the adhesive. So now we have our lake in place. Now to put the boat in, you fold it flat, push it up against the side of the card, and then glue the tabs down. Now, a little tip, I do find that when you use Distress ink and you put glue and you have a pop-up, it's really best to really let that sit. As you will see, it kind of has pulled up off of my paper. It got a little finicky. So I really suggest giving it more time to set than I did. I ended up having to pull my boat right off and then gluing it back down again. And I think looking back, I might have put the boat in the wrong direction. I'm not sure. But it just was giving me a bit of a hard time because I didn't let that glue set. So this time I was going to just let it set. Set that aside. Put some blocks on it, and I let it sit and dry. Now I want to add fireworks to the around the sky of my boat, and in order to do that I had to use some acetate. So I took I cut 2 little strips of acetate, and I added some 1/4 inch tape to each end. Now I have used Karen Burniston's fireworks dies, and I've die cut all the fireworks from assorted different colors of glitter cardstock. Now, unfortunately, in order to do this, I've had to place the card flat so I can see when in the closed position whether it will actually fit in the card. So I've added the acetate to part of the back of the sail and then to the back of the fireworks. I'm creating another little acetate tab. And then I'm going to add that to the other side. But I found that it was easier to do this when it's partially closed so that I can really see, make sure that it's not going to pop out from the sides of the card. So I apologize that it doesn't really show too much of what I'm doing. But as you can see from there, it's going to look like fireworks are going off all around the boat. And again, I didn't let this set, and it's glitter paper. So it was a bit of a pain in the butt to try and glue. So what I did end up doing was adding it to the card in the folded down position and then just adding a craft block to it to hold it in place so that the glue would set. So I didn't have to use fingers and get sticky and try and hold everything in place. And so I apologize that you can't really see what's happening, but I'm just carefully adding fireworks all around in the various colors of glitter cardstock that I picked up from my local Michaels. And then as you can see, I've just kept building and building, but then I found that the base wasn't the sails weren't strong enough, and the center piece for the sails wasn't strong enough. So what I eventually end up doing is adding a backing to the sails, in which I just die cut 2 regular sails and then glued them to the back of the sails that I have on the boat currently. And then I ended up adding 2 small pieces to the bottom of the post that the sails attached to. And I'm sorry that some of this didn't get shown on my video. I was in the middle of making this card and my die machine died. And so I had to take it all apart, and then my husband had to fix some gears, and I got it back working, but part of that I didn't get recorded. So I apologize for that. While that was happening, I just let this sit and dry, and so then all my fireworks were in place. And in just 1 second, one got a little stuck to the paper. And you'll see what I mean by it. It wasn't strong enough, so I had to build it up at the bottom and build up the sails so that it would be just a little bit stronger. So I've die cut 2 extra sails, and I'm just going to glue those on the back. And then what I did was add 2 little pieces to that bottom post as well. And how I did that was I just die cut the post again and then just trimmed off pieces that went up to the first notch in the sail, or in the post where the sail goes in, and then trimmed off the bottom. And that added enough strength that it could stand up, because the fireworks are a little on the heavy side, especially for that little post. So I did pick up this pretty Happy New Year's paper from Michaels, and I'm just adding it to a gold background. And I'm going to put that on either side of my card. This is a very pretty double-sided paper that Michaels has just come out with up here in Canada. I really like it. It's kind of thick, but it's very pretty. It has a nice feel to it. It's very smooth. And I'm just adding this to either side. And now also for this card, I decided to use Karen Burniston's new Happy New Year die. It's like a little sentiment die. For me, it's kind of almost a little bit like the Lorna label add-ons that she has. And the nice part is you can use the die as a placeholder to add the word happy so that it goes in straight. And I'm just using my little sticky tool to put the letters in. And then I'll add that to the water part of my card. And then I die cut the word new from a glitter red cardstock. I thought just a little pop of red would make it stand out just a little more. And then I used the same mirrored gold cardstock as the side pieces. And that's just a basic gold cardstock paper package I got from Michaels as well. Okay, so I'm just going to add the sentiment to my card. And then on the other half, I did add a label for a sentiment. Unfortunately, that was the point that my die cut machine died. So it wasn't until much later in the evening that I was able to die cut that little label. So I'm going to work on the front of the card now. And I'm just adding this pattern paper piece to a gold trim. So it has this little bit of gold trim all around the edges. And I'm going to add the sentiment sailing into 2025. So I went with the same gold and red paper. And I used Karen Burniston's alphabet, numbers, and mini alphabet numbers to create this. I did add black cardstock to the back of the gold cardstock for the word sailing and 2025, just to make it pop a little more. And then just gluing those two together. And then I will move on to the 2025. Once I have that in place. Now I did cut the word into using the mini alphabet and numbers, and I used the red cardstock, and looking at it, I maybe should have used a different color because it kind of fades into the background. The front became very busy. I'm not really into busy cards, but it kind of suited the excitement of New Year's Eve. If I can stay awake to make it to midnight. It's not exciting at my house on New Year's Eve. We have snackies and then I try and stay awake. That's about it. My daughter, she stays up until 3 or 4 in the morning hanging out with her friends online, and I can barely make it to midnight. So here I'm just trying to figure out how much space I'm going to need for the word sailing. And this is where I'm going to use my my board again from Ranger, and I'm just going to use my magnetic ruler so I get good placement on my card. The words are straight when I put them on. So I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to the back, and then what I try and do is do them like the first letter, the S, and then go in and glue down the G. And then from there, I can add the center letters and try and make it evenly spaced. Okay, so now I can just let that sit for a minute, let the glue set, and then I'm going to move my ruler down, and then I'm going to put the word into, and as you can see, it kind of fades out. I should have used a different color. And I'm just going to glue that into place. And then once we have that in place, then I can add the 2025. And again, just using my craft block to hold that, let the glue set a bit. And I have all these pretty fireworks that I still can use, so I'm going to add those to the front of the card as well. So the nice part about die cutting all the fireworks was that, even if you don't use them for this card, you could save them, and then you have them for other cards that you might want to make and use the fireworks with. So don't use all the fireworks in this card, but I use quite a bit, and now I have extra for something else. So I'm just going to glue these on, using my craft block to hold them down while I move on to the next firework. And the die set comes with like the starbursts and the bigger fireworks, and then little stars, and it's a really neat little set. And I'm just adding these all over the place. I'm using LINECO neutral pH adhesive in my fine tip bottle to glue these down. I really like this glue. It doesn't set right away, so you have time to kind of move things around if you need to. But once it's set, and it does dry clear. All the products that I use in my videos are in the description box below. So if there's anything that you're interested in, then you can see it there. And like I said, as you can see, this is a very busy card. It's very, very busy on the front. Okay, so once everything's dry and I've cleaned up a little bit of the excess glue, I'm going to go in with my craft scissors and just trim the excess off of the backing. Or the background paper, sorry. Okay, and then clean up all my mess. And then we can put this fancy piece onto my gold cardstock. And then put that piece onto the front of my card. And the front is where the tab is for the 2 pieces of cardstock that made up the card base, so it covered that right up, no problem. And there's our card. So as you can see, it kind of looks like fireworks are hovering over the boat, and we're sailing into 2025. Thank you for joining me today. Have a great day.